All right, welcome back to Real Estate Bites, my friends. This is episode number 55. Want to introduce you to Libby. Libby is the new addition to the family. Um, I'm holding Libby here because we got a fella working out back, and Libby was letting him know that she sees he was there. So say bye to everybody, Libby. Thank you, Namba. Okay, today's program, I want to get into two different topics. I want to touch on the latest rule changes, the new law changes regarding buyer representation here in Ohio. I don't want to delve into any more analysis or stuff like that. I have a different sort of message about it today. And then I want to get into whether or not we are in a housing bubble and if it's going to pop. I've been having this conversation literally for years with a number of people. I've been hearing gurus talk about whether or not we're in a real estate bubble. Finally found an article online written by somebody who should be in the know. So we'll get to that in a bit. But first, let's go and get our weekly chuckle in here. All right. So the meme of the week. When you get home after a day full of showings and there's a key in your pocket, and I got to tell you, this face, yeah, okay, maybe follow that up with a whole lot of self-disgust and a lot of foul language that comes vomiting out of me when I get done showing houses, and then I do reach in my pocket and see there's a key. Because you know what? It's always the worst thing. It only ever happens when I'm showing 5 or 6 houses at a time, and you get done, and now I've got this key in my pocket, so I've got to go back to all the houses to figure out which one it is. And it's never the first house. It's always like house number 4 that you stop at, where you finally find the right house where that key belongs to. So, anyways, that is the meme of the week. Let's get into the real topic of conversation. So, this message is for my fellow agents. And for those who are not a real estate agent and who watch this program, maybe we'll pull back the curtain a little bit on how we do things. But to my fellow agents, I understand that there's a lot of frustration regarding these rules. A lot of people are very resistant to change. They abhor change. But it's here, and we have to deal with it. We have to figure it out, and we still have clients to take care of. So I'm going to tell you guys something. If you take your frustrations to your client, in front of your client, and you say things like, "I don't know why they're doing this. This is so stupid. This is a terrible idea. I don't know what's going on. I just can't figure out," whatever you might want to say. This is a terrible way to start off a relationship with any newer client. You know, the typical buyer and seller comes to us because we deal in this market every single day. We aid people in buying and selling homes every single day. And this might be the only time they've ever bought or sold, or maybe it's been a long time since they bought or sold, or maybe even though they bought their house 5 years ago and are selling, they don't have the market knowledge and expertise to feel very secure in doing it on their own. And so they bring us on as agents to guide them through the process, to give them confidence, to supply them with all the information that they need to make the best decisions for their family, and that they can rest easy at night knowing that they're in good hands, that they're in control of the process, and that we are helping them achieve their goals within this transaction. When you start off your relationship with a prospective buyer and or seller, and it's filled with negativity and doubt and a lack of self-confidence, trust me when I tell you that is going to taint the relationship, the remainder of the transaction. Okay? It is a truism. It's just a truth, guys, that a customer values the appearance of confidence more so than the appearance of competence. Okay? So when you start off and your words express that you don't know what's going on and you don't know how to do what you need to do based upon these new rules, you are putting yourself and your customer in a disadvantage, at a disadvantage. Okay, so study these things, for whatever it's worth. Understand the fact that you can't change it. Regardless of any amount of bitching that you do about these changes, it's here to stay. It's here to stay for a while, at least. It's indefinite, but it's here to stay. So suck it up, educate yourself, and be prepared to help guide your clients through this new process. That's all you can do. Don't come with the negativity. Quit your crying. We got to change the way we do things. So get to work. All right. That said, let's move on to the next topic. And this is kind of take a little bit more time. So, are we in a housing bubble? Again, I have this conversation with people quite a bit. When you see the prices do what they've done over the past 4 years, you just, again, I get lots of questions about this. So I found this article from Norada Real Estate Investments, and it's written by one Marco Santarelli. Okay, and Marco is the CEO and founder of Norada Real Estate Investments. So here's a fella who is a wealthy entrepreneur, has started a real estate investment company, and whose hands are literally in the market every single day. So this is a person who should know what they're talking about, okay? So we'll start right here. As the sun rises on the U.S. housing market, very, very poetic, Mr. Santinelli, many potential buyers and investors find themselves asking the pressing question, is the housing bubble about to burst? Okay. And so he says in here that in this article, we're going to delve deeper into the complexities of the current housing landscape and explore what various experts are saying, highlighting the factors that may influence the course of the market moving forward. So there it is, the big question. Is the housing bubble about to burst in the U.S.? Before we even jump into that, I think a great question to ask as we're going into this is, are we in a housing bubble? All signs may point to yes. I mean, look, we are seeing record high valuations for homes. But is it because we're in a bubble, or is it because of what economic factors since COVID have done to this market? So let's see. Let's understand the current housing situation. He talks about, median home price skyrocketed to an astonishing $426,900 in early 2024. Now that is, of course, a national median, right? And they're saying that existing home sales fell by 5.4% in June compared to the previous month. We're going to take a look at some more local stuff because this is definitely a national perspective. And from my perspective, when we look at our market, it's so much different than what's on the coasts. It really skews data and it really skews perspective. So they ask, what's a real estate or a housing bubble? And how does it form? So, a real estate bubble occurs when property prices rise to levels that are not sustainable based on economic fundamentals. Okay, how does it form? So here's where we get into the real stuff, where we're talking about how does this bubble form? How does it pop? What's it mean to everybody? So it forms because of low interest rates. When mortgage rates are low, borrowing becomes cheaper, prompting more buyers to enter the market. So listen, obviously this is what happened in 2020 when the pandemic started, and interest rates were dropped. Right there, borrowing becomes cheaper. So housing became more affordable to more people than it had been in a long time. And not only did it become more affordable to the typical home buyer, refis became very attractive, which caused people to not want to move, which helped dry up inventory a bit. It also made borrowing money very, very easy and cheap for investors who bought up upwards of 30% of the market in the ensuing 3 years. Okay. And this also leads me, if low interest rates had such a giant impact on inventory, if they had such a giant impact on upward pressure on housing prices, you have to ask why, what caused those low interest rates? Well, the market was artificially manipulated by the Federal Reserve, dropping those interest rates considerably. So another government or government related institution, I'll tell you, I'm no anarchist. We need government. Government has always existed in some form or fashion and always will. Humans require some sort of hierarchy, some sort of government to make sure that it's not just might makes right. But I got to tell you, I don't know of a group better at screwing things up than the government. Um, they remember all the helicopter money back in the Obama days, and we're just dropping helicopter money, and people are dancing in the streets of Detroit and Cleveland, talking about all their free $800 checks they're getting. Are those people in any better shape than they were? How about all these stimmy checks under Trump, right? All these stimmy checks that went out in response to COVID. Is anybody out there, has anybody gotten rich because of those stimmy checks? No, but what it did was drive the price of eggs up, right? Drive the price of bread up, and then milk big time. Now people are complaining that it's hard to live, it's hard to pay bills. They got to make a decision. Or am I going to pay rent, or am I going to eat? You hear that kind of rhetoric on the news all the time. Well, how about the government quit screwing with the economy like this? Just a suggestion. Anyways, speculative investments. If investors believe home values will continue to rise, demand may outpace supply. That happened. And that happened in big part because borrowing became cheaper. Here's another thing that I saw too. There was a bunch of companies, Open Doors, Zillow, there's a couple others that Compass, who got into the home flipping model, expecting to purchase a house, put a very, very little amount of actual aesthetic, cosmetic repairs into it, and wait a few months and try to make a 10-15% margin on it. Those companies lost billions and billions of dollars. They got screwed even while the market continued to appreciate. Their model was so flawed, they lost billions of dollars. Zillow doesn't even do that program anymore. They quit. They were smart enough and they quit while they were ahead. Economic factors can help form a real estate bubble. Population growth, job creation, and rising incomes can increase demand for housing. So this was a big factor in cities like Austin, Texas, Miami, Tampa, even Columbus, Ohio. When you had states like the Communist Republic of California, who are locking people in their homes for years at a time, shutting businesses down, destroying their own economies, and people are getting tired of that. They're moving out of places like that. They're moving out of New York City. They're moving out of Chicago, and they're going to places that are more friendly for their money and their lifestyle. And so, a place like Austin, not only did you have low rates and inflation, driving and putting upward pressure on prices, but you also had more people moving into the community, right? Escaping some of those more oppressive states where they had come from, putting even additional upward pressure on pricing. Okay, so how does a bubble burst? So if interest rates rise, it's the first bullet point they put is borrowing costs increase, the number of potential buyers decreases, leading to reduced demand. Now look, interest rates started to climb in 2022 very slowly, but they went from 4% to 8% over the spring and summer of 2023. A tremendous increase. I mean, it doubled. It doubled in about 6 months. And indeed, the demand did decrease, but it didn't decrease enough. Since that time, prices have continued to climb. We've been tracking now for the past, well, not quite a year, but 9 months. We've been tracking square foot values, and they're going up, guys. So pricing is still climbing, albeit slowly. It's not meteoric like it was in 2021 and 2022, but prices are still going up while demand falls. Okay, over speculation. When prices rise too quickly, buyers become hesitant, fearing they are overpaying. I'm seeing that in the market as well. Okay, there was also recent articles, and we talked about this not too long ago, about how many contracts are falling apart. Like at an unprecedented rate, buyers are trying to back out of deals because they're getting buyer remorse because they're afraid that they're overpaying, right? Nevertheless, there is such short inventory that prices are remaining stable. Okay, what happens when the housing bubble bursts? So clearly, we're not there. Again, I still question whether or not we are in a bubble, or are we in an environment where prices, even if they correct, are they going to correct 40%? Are they going to go back to 2019 levels? I really doubt it, guys. I really, really doubt it. You know, if um, oh, it talked about also the economic downturn. This could help the bubble burst. An economic recession can adversely affect employment and income. So look, if we see a recession, we already know the Fed and the government's playbook. Reduce rates, put a bunch of free money out into the market, incentivize shopping, incentivize spending. If the rates drop, you can anticipate that more investors buy back in, more people who've lost purchasing power jump back into the market because they can finally afford the kind of house that they wanted 3 4 years ago, and prices go right back up. Unless again, I've said this before. I've been talking about this for quite a while. Unless we have a recession that creates a lot of job losses, right? um, where people cannot get back to work and they simply don't have the means to buy and they have to sell. They become distressed and they have to sell, and a ton of homes come back on the market because of it. Um, I don't see this changing a whole lot, guys. But let's be honest. If we are in that kind of a recession where so many people are forced out of their homes that it quadruples inventory. I mean, we're in a depression. You know, we're in a really hard way, and that's going to stick around for a while. Okay, so right here we're talking about that stuff. If the bubble bursts, declining property prices, foreclosures and distress sales, and a wider economic impact. Okay, so they're talking about what are the key indicators of the housing market. What are you supposed to look at to figure out whether or not we're in a bubble and what might happen? Home prices, yeah, we're at all-time highs. Okay, existing home sales figures are declining. Okay, now they talk about this, um, and then they follow it up here with inventory levels. Despite high prices, inventory is starting to show signs of improvement. When we talk about this every week when we do stats, and maybe it's improving. You know, you're talking about 3.1% month over month. Couple that with a 5.4% drop in existing home sales over the last month. Is that a big deal? I don't know. Let's go here and take a look. This is local, okay? This is inventory versus demand in Lorain County. Again, let's go back to pre-COVID. We have 1,200 houses on the market at the beginning, or basically summer and fall of 2019. Here we are. We're at 430 houses on the market today. That's nearly 3 times less than it was 5 years ago. Okay. That is the reason home prices are where they're at. That is a hyperbolic drop in inventory. Okay. Now, this blue, whereas green is inventory, blue is sales. So green is supply, blue is demand. And you can see in 2023, which was considered by many gurus the worst real estate market in history because of how difficult it was on buyers, agents, and everyone alike. You can see that that drop in demand, while somewhat significant, if you're looking at the peaks over here and how low it is here, that drop in demand did not stop home values from rising. Home values continued to rise during the quote unquote worst real estate market in history. And if you look here where we're at today, it's flat from what it was a year ago. So if a 5.4 decrease from month to month isn't enough, and if a 3% increase in inventory, which by the way, they're not talking about Lorain County, they're not talking about the greater Cleveland area. I don't think they're really even talking about the state of Ohio for that matter. Um, if those slight changes aren't affecting and aren't slowing down, well, they've slowed down increasing home values, but they haven't stopped it, and home values certainly aren't going backwards yet. Are we in a bubble? I don't know. I continue to argue that it is simply a case of supply and demand. We have all-time low supply and steady demand. Okay, this green, this supply level needs to approach these pre-COVID levels for prices to come down to something that resembled anything like it did in 2019. And I don't think it would go back down to the prices that we saw in 2019. I don't think it would be a 40 to 50% correction. 25, maybe, but not that big. But without this inventory increasing and quickly, um, I don't think we see much of a change there. Okay. So again, are we in a bubble? I don't know. We just looked at these things, and we have this such low inventory, and what is going to change that? I mean, for a couple years now, I'm hearing that housing inventory is short 4 to 5 million units. That's the estimate. There are 4 to 5 million housing units estimated shortfall in the United States. Builders aren't building that fast, especially in some of the larger population centers, some of the larger metropolitan areas where it costs more than anywhere else to build, where there's more regulation. They're not building that fast. Okay, and again, houses aren't coming on the market that quickly, guys. Not unless there is a major economic downturn. Is that possible? Of course, it's possible. It's always possible. But if we deal with it the way we have in the past, we being our government and our Fed, as the recession begins to hit, anticipate seeing an immediate drop in interest rates, an immediate flood of currency, and and quantitative easing, making it easier for banks to borrow and lend, and watch prices recover quickly. And then, as people gain confidence in the markets again, watch prices inflate to even higher market highs. So that is my take on the housing bubble today. Let's go from there and move into this week's statistics as we start to wrap this thing up. All right. So this morning, when I took a look, there were 416 housing units on the market. Now, again, I only consider single-family residences and condos for this purpose. I do not look at multifamily, and I do not look at mobile homes. Last week, there were 85 sales that closed. The median square footage of those closings were 1,724 square feet. The median home value was $250,000. The median square foot value jumped again to $172.50. So before that, just a month ago, we saw $171.74. And I want to say those two values were the highest that we have seen since I started tracking. I mean, look, you going all the way back. I screwed up here at the beginning. These are averages, these first 7-8 weeks. And then you can see in the 140s, and then we start to see 150s and 60s. Now, as we get towards the end of this, we're seeing 150s, 160s, and into the 170s for square foot values. We are watching prices continue to appreciate, okay? The median days on market for sales last week was just 18 days. This morning, interest rates had improved week over week by 10 basis points at 6.48% for the 30-year conventional note. And the big sale of the week was an $875,000 home in Vermilion. And I believe, yes, that's the first time we've seen Vermilion on the list. So that's cool. And I'll tell you what, though, I looked at this house and it's pretty awesome. So I want to show you. This one is not on the lake, not even near it. It's deep into Vermilion Township. Look at this beauty. I mean, you got a friggin' basketball court instead of a front yard. You got a big courtyard out here. Okay. This house is pretty awesome, though. I mean, the elegance inside of this home is remarkable in that there are finishes in here that most would consider tired and old and boring that look simply incredible. When is the last time you've seen oak look this good, right? Oak finishes throughout. It's just beautiful. The elegance and the craftsmanship with which it's been done is beautiful all over the place. The brass finishes and fixtures in both the bathrooms and the kitchen, the handles. I mean, again, these brass finishes are considered passe. Not in this place, man. In this place, they look amazing. Um, so the design of this home is just simply gorgeous. The craftsmanship that was put into it, obviously, there was a very fine eye for detail. The person who designed this knew exactly what they were going for, and they nailed it. An absolute gorgeous monster of a home deep in Vermilion Township. All right, that is our big daddy of the week. All right, guys. I appreciate you joining me. I appreciate you listening to my stuff. And as always, until next week, take care of yourselves, take care of one another. I love you, people.